So thank you very much for the invitation. Today we shall review the work on post-Newtonian approximation in general relativity to compute gravitational wave signals. And so we focus on the post-Newtonian theory, which is directly of use in the data analysis of gravitational wave detectors, LIGO, Virgo, Kagra, LIGO, India, and so on. So we shall just be in standard general relativity. We do not discuss at all alternative theories of gravity. Also, this is a very important topic. And the post-Newtonian approximation is the approximation method to be used for gravitational waves generated by compact binary systems. At the lowest approximation, this is a standard quadrupole formula, which is here written by Einstein himself. And that approximation is the lowest order, so-called Newtonian approximation in the waveform. That is, in the leading 1/r coefficient of the gravitational wave, where r is the distance to the source. And this is exactly the signal that LIGO Virgo measures. The first test of that formula, the lowest post-Newtonian approximation, Einstein quadrupole formula, was of course done with the Hull-Stellar binary pulsar. If you compute that formula in the case of binary systems made of two delta functions, say 2-point masses, it was first done by Landau and Lifshitz in the famous treatise field theory in the case of circular orbits, and this was generalized by Peters and Matthews to include eccentric orbits. And this gives you an interesting eccentricity enhancement factor, which increases the effect on the orbital p dot, the decay of the Hull-Stellar binary pulsar, by a good factor, which improves the test of GR and the check of that Einstein quadrupole formula for binary systems. So there are, as I said, there are two derivations. The first derivation is a standard one based on flux balance equation. So you equate the flux generated by in the form of gravitational wave by the system according to the Einstein quadrupole formula, and then you equate that to the loss of energy at that order, just the Newtonian energy of the system, and then this gives you immediately the decay, that is the decrease of the orbital period of the binary pulsar because of gravitational radiation. But there is also another derivation which is based on equations of motion. And for that derivation, you have to include the full information of the radiation reaction force, and it occurs at the leading order corresponding to the quadrupole formula, which is 2.5 Pn order, 1/c5, and you see this C5 is there as well. And then this gives you a complete derivation of the orbital p dot of the Hull-Stellar binary pulsar. And this solved also a controversy that was raging at the time on radiation reaction. So that's exactly the same story for gravitational waves. We shall be interested in the chirp of compact binary system, and the chirp is nothing but the orbital p dot of the Hull-Stellar binary pulsar. And for compact bodies, we shall have several phases into the coalescence of compact binaries, the in-spiral phase. In this phase, the post-Newtonian theory is exactly the right approximation to be used, because the chirp is exactly small in a post-Newtonian sense. The evolution of the frequency and amplitude of the signal is adiabatic and the adiabatic parameter is small in a post-Newtonian sense. And associated with the post-Newtonian approximation, you have to use point particles described by delta functions, because all the internal structure of the compact objects are actually negligible in these phases. Therefore, in GR, the signal is universal. That's the same signal for black holes or for neutron star binaries or for more exotic, possibly compact objects. And this is sometimes called in the literature as the principle of effacing of the internal structure. And this is a feature of GR, and this is actually due to the strong version of the equivalence principle, which is satisfied by GR, which is actually the only theory to satisfy exactly the strong version of the equivalence principle. Now, in the late in-spiral, we shall still have post-Newtonian theory, but we have to use also, we have to see post-Newtonian approximation as an effective field theory, where you will add to the action of describing your matter some extra terms which describe the internal structure of the compact object, but still you are using point particles. These extra terms will describe tidal interaction between the two objects and will depend on the details of the internal structure of neutron star, and notably the equation of state. And finally, for the merger, you will use numerical relativity. There will be a strong dependence on the internal structure. And you can use also some phenomenological models that have been proposed, which actually are able to interpolate between the initial inspiraling phase of the compact binary coalescence. Here is the signal in the frequency domain, and interpolation between this initial post-Newtonian in-spiral phase and the final numerically computed merger and ring-down phase at the end. And there are two approaches that are very important in the data analysis of black hole binaries. For neutron star binaries, you are essentially in the in-spiral phase, so the post-Newtonian approximation is essentially sufficient for the detection and parameter estimation. And this is the effective one-body approach and the in-spiral merger ring-down IMR approach, and the latter one being described by a set of parameters, including the post-Newtonian parameters and extra parameters describing the intermediate phase and the final phase that are to be matched with numerical calculations. In the in-spiral phase, start discussing only the basic post-Newtonian approximation. 3.5 post-Newtonian, beyond the Einstein quadrupole formula, is the state of the art. You compute, exactly like for the binary pulsar, the post-Newtonian parameters using balance equation, flux balance equation. So you have a combination of conservative effects and dissipative effects that you equate, and this gives you the time evolution of the orbital phase of the signal that you can express in terms of the orbital frequency of the signal. And each of the post-Newtonian parameters depends on the mass through the mass ratio between the two objects. And so you will have typically an expansion, post-Newtonian expansion. The leading order will be the Einstein quadrupole formula, and then there will be many corrections to that are powers of the frequency, orbital frequency, okay, which itself depends on time, and this is exactly given by that equation, the dependent on time of the orbital frequency as well, and depends also on logarithms of the frequencies that can arise at high approximations. 3.5 PN is known. The leading term is the Einstein quadrupole formula, and then there are many corrections to that. These corrections have been computed by a lot of works in the past, notably in collaborations with Ballard Ayer at the time at the Raman Research Institute. And so these are polynomials in the mass ratio, you see. There are log terms that appear at the 2.5 pn order, 3.5, 3 pn order. And in these terms, there are many terms that are due to the non-linearities of GR. Essentially, at that order, but this is more complicated at higher order, essentially the tails, and you see that the first coefficient of tails is 1.5 pn order, and this is measurable by LIGO, Virgo, Cagra, and so on, with some rather good approximation, accuracy of the order of 10%. And then there are higher order tail effects, and there are even at that order tails generated by tails, so-called tails of tails, that appear at 3 pn order. And this is still measurable, but not for the moment with very good accuracy by LIGO, Virgo. And I will discuss at the end of the talk the generalization of this state of the art at the next approximation, 4 pn and 4.5 pn order. At still higher order in the expansion, there is the first effect due to tidal interaction between the two objects. In that case, we must have neutron stars. And as I said, we can compute this effect by using effective field theory. So this will be post-Newtonian approximation, but in the framework of effective field theory, where you add to the matter action describing your bodies some extra terms which depend on the internal structure of the compact object. And these extra terms are depend actually on the love number of the compact object, which in turn depend on the equation of state of the neutron stars. And you can compute using this effective field theory, post-Newtonian expanded field theory, you can compute the leading term. And this is a term which is comparable to orbital effects at the 5 pn order. So this is a 5 pn effect, which is in principle very small, completely negligible to the other point particles orbital effect. But the coefficient in front, as has been shown by many works in the past, the post-Newtonian, the coefficient in front of that 5 pn effect can actually be very large. And this is computed for various equations of state, and you see it can be of the order of 1,000, 1 or 2,000, and therefore this gives you this can be measurable or constrained by LIGO, Virgo. But in the following of the talk, I will no longer discuss these tidal interaction and come back to the problem of 2-point particles described actually by delta function. And I will also neglect, there has been many works done on that. I will neglect all spin effects, the effects of the two spins of the two compact objects that are known by many works, and I will not discuss that at all. Okay. So you have, besides the flux generated by the compact binaries, you have also the motion to be solved. And the motion is to be solved conjointly with the generation of gravitational waves. The two must be actually solved at the same time, because the gravitational waveform needs the equations of motion, post-Newtonian equations of motion, in order to be completely solved at the end. So the post-Newtonian equations of motion, then also I will review a lot of works done in this topic. We shall write the equations of motion as the acceleration of one of the particles, as a series of post-Newtonian corrections to the Newtonian motion. At 1 pn order, there will be the famous correction, which is responsible for the precession, the orbital precession of the compact binary. Up to 2 p.n. order, the motion will be conservative. That is, there will be some invariants associated with the motion, energy, angular momentum, and so on. And actually, since we are looking for a solution of GR, the equations of motion will admit the 10 invariants associated with the 10 symmetries of the Poincaré group. But of course, here I speak of approximate symmetries that are re-expanded in a post-Newtonian approximation consistently with your approximation. 2.5 p.n. order is the leading radiation reaction effect corresponding to the quadruple formula at infinity. And then this goes on like that at 4 p.n. order, which is the state of the art on equations of motion. There will be many conservative effects, but also a dissipative effect associated with gravitational wave tails. The 1 p.n. equations of motion were derived very early on after general relativity. There are three important historical works on that. Lorentz and Drost, and Drost alone also, worked out the 1 p.n. equations of motion and obtained the full Lagrangian already at that time in harmonic coordinates. This work was rediscovered in the 30s in the famous Einstein-Infeld-Hoffmann paper, which is where the equations of motion are actually deduced from the vacuum Einstein field equation and therefore are independent of the nature of the compact object. And these equations are extensively used in the solar system for the motion of n planets in the solar system. An important work also has been the work of Fock, notably in his book, where he computes the motion of the center of mass of some extended compact object. And important for modern post-Newtonian calculation is that Fock introduced this very nice function, which is for two objects, the perimeter of the triangle made with the two particles, the two source points, and the field point, x. And the logarithm of this triangle, perimeter of the triangle, is satisfies Laplacian of this function is 1 over R1, R2. Extremely important and useful function in post-Newtonian calculation done in the real-time domain. I will mention works, modern works with the effective field theory or amplitude scattering theory, where people use diagrammatic expansion in Feynman type diagram in the Fourier domain. These people don't use such functions, but us for traditional PN calculation, this is a very important tool in our calculations. So the method to compute post-Newtonian equations of motion, we shall have traditional method in classical GR based on either Hamiltonian or Fokker action. There are also the works called surface integral approach based on the Einstein-Infeld-Hoffmann approach. And there are also some works based on extended fluids in the compact body limits. Now we have the quantum field theory inspired method that are more recent. I will mention a little bit this method later. And in all these works, dimensional regularization is the common tool for solving the problem of divergences. In the problem, we shall have two types of divergences. We have UV type divergences that are due to the model of point particles by delta functions. For a long time, it was not known in traditional PN approach how to solve the problem of delta functions, since GR is a fully nonlinear theory, and the problem is a priori not trivial at all. And this problem is solved by dimensional regularization. And there are also another type of divergences, infrared divergences, that are specific to the use of post-Newtonian approximation. This is actually an artifact of the post-Newtonian expansion, but you have to deal with that if you use direct post-Newtonian expansions, and not, for instance, post-Minkowskian expansion first. But if you use post-Newtonian approximation, then you will have infrared divergences starting at a very high post-Newtonian order. And again, these infrared divergences have to be solved, treated and solved by means of dimensional regularization. So 4PN is a state of the art on equations of motion using these various methods by various groups. Let me just emphasize that the first completion of the equations of motion at 4PN order was done with the ADM Hamiltonian formalism. However, there was one regularization ambiguity left, which is due to these infrared divergences that start precisely at 4PN order. And one regularization ambiguity was fixed in that approach using gravitational cell force calculations. But using the Fokker-Lagrangian in our group, this series of papers, was the first complete derivation of the equations of motion at 4PN order without any regularization ambiguity. So this is a full calculation from scratch using post-Newtonian approximation without resorting on other type of approach in order to fix ambiguities parameters. And the calculation is completely at the end unambiguous, and this has been also confirmed by the effective field theory approach, both using a Lagrangian and Hamiltonian. So the state of the art at 4PN order is extremely satisfying on equations of motion. We have the direct post-Newtonian approximation, but we have also the post-Minkowskian approximation. And the two approximations have a very interesting interplay between themselves. If you plot them into this diagram where we have the compacity parameter of the system, that is the ratio between the mass and the distance between the two bodies, versus the smallness parameter, that is your ordinary V over C, small parameter of the post-Newtonian approximation. The two approximations have a common interplay when your system will be gravitationally bound, for which the two small parameters are related to each other using the virial theorem. And so for such a system, gravitationally bound system, we see that the post-Minkowskian approximation is actually not so useful because it is actually it overlaps very much with the post-Newtonian approximation. And the real interest of the post-Minkowskian approximation is for doing the unbound problem of two particles that scatter, and there will be a scattering angle that you can compute using post-Minkowskian approximation, and in particular, you can compute the ultra-relativistic scattering of two particles, because the post-Minkowskian approximation is valid independently of the smallness of this V-square parameter, which can be of the order of 1 for the ultra-relativistic scattering. The relation between the post-Newtonian and post-Minkowskian approximation is quite interesting. In the usual post-Newtonian approximation, we shall have a bunch of terms starting from the Newtonian approximation and correcting with relativistic corrections. There will be corrections of the order of G, G squared, and so on, G cube, which can be also computed directly using the post-Minkowskian approximation, where the leading order is a special relativity, and then the leading 1 PM correction is of the order of G, G squared, and so on. So you see that if you control the nth post-Minkowskian dynamics, say 3 PM, then you are able to fully control the 2 PN dynamics, because you are able to compute all these terms. However, at 3pn, there will be a G4, which is out of reach by your 3pm approximation. So you will need to go to 4pm approximation. So for instance, the 3pm Hamiltonian, which has been probably still be the state of the art on post-Minkowskian approximation. This was done in the group of Bern a few years ago, permits to control the 2pn approximation fully. And it has been checked by the known equations of motion at 4pn order for all the term up to g cube. But of course, the 3pm approximation controls many terms, higher order terms in the post-Newtonian. But on the other hand, the 4pn approximation controls as well the G4 and G5 terms that are out of reach of the post-Minkowskian approximation. So the two approximations are extremely useful and complementary. The previous diagram was for the conservative part of the dynamics, but there is also the dissipative part of the dynamics associated with radiation reaction, and which starts at the lowest order by the Newtonian quadrupole formula, and then followed by many post-Newtonian corrections. But the quadrupole formula itself starts with G squared, so it can be computed using the 2pm approximation. And actually, there is also a term of order G cube, which can be computed with the 3pm approximation. So 3pm approximation permits to control the quadrupole formula, but not beyond the quadrupole formula in principle. Note that the post-Minkowskian approximation controls the dissipative terms because these are radiation reaction terms in the equations of motion or in the Hamiltonian of the dynamics. In this talk, we are interested in 4pn corrections beyond the quadrupole formula, which correspond to extremely high post-Newtonian corrections as seen as radiation reaction. 1/C13, which correspond to 6.5 post-Newtonian order, and actually we are interested in 4.5 pn order, which corresponds to 7pn approximation, which would correspond to a very, very high post-Minkowskian order in the equations of motion. So I will mention a little bit the recent progress on the computation of the 4pn approximation beyond the quadrupole formula. This calculation has been done using a combination of post-Newtonian and post-Minkowskian approximation conjointly with a multipolar expansion for the field outside your system. And this is in the first stage done for an arbitrary isolated system made of some fluids, and only at the end of the calculation do we restrict to compact binary system using delta functions. Let me have a few historical remarks on that formalism, so-called MPM, multipolar post-Minkowskian formalism. Actually, it comes from the nice review article by Thorne in the Review of Modern Physics of 1980, where he gives the general solution of the Einstein field equations in vacuum at the linearized approximation using harmonic coordinates. This is given in his paper by that formula, following also previous works by Pirani and other people before. And this general solution of the Einstein field equation at the linearized approximation in vacuum, that is outside your system, is parameterized by two sets of multiple moments, mass type moments and current type moments. And the idea of the formalism that we have done some years ago, many years ago with Thibaut Damour in the 80s, is to iterate that linearized Thorne solution to higher order in G, that is, in a post-Minkowskian expansion. The Thorne formula for the first step in this MPM approximation is just a solution, the most general solution of the linearized Einstein field equation in harmonic coordinates that you will recognize certainly here very easily. And this is parameterized by multiple moments, and so they appear as formal multiple expansions of these moments up to any order in the multipolar order. And here the notation is that capital L is a multi-index with L spatial indices. And then you solve using retarded potentials this equation. This is very simple. And so you have your definition of the multiple moments, so-called source multiple moments. Remember that in the 80s, the situation of the field was rather, I will say, sad. There was a lot of problems in the field. The multiple moments were given by divergent integrals. Here are expressions of the multiple moments, and these expressions integrate over the components of the pseudo-stress energy tensor of your matter plus the gravitational field. Because of the non-linearities of GR, this integral extends up to infinity, but for high order in multipolar, this is completely divergent integrals. On the other hand, the post-Newtonian iteration is also given by divergent Poisson-like integrals. This starts at 3pn order. That was a nightmare in post-Newtonian approximation for a long time. The treatment of point particles in nonlinear GR was really poorly, very poorly understood. And nonlinear effects such as tails, memory, tails of tails, and so on were completely ignored at the time. The MPM approximation improved several aspects of the state of the field. So, as I said, you expand, you start from the Thorne linearized approximation and add all the post-Minkowskian corrections to that, and you can do that up to any order in the approximation. And for that, you use a particular retarded regularized version of the retarded propagator, where you have you have a particular regulator which permits to treat multipolar expansions. Multipolar expansions are divergent when R tends to 0 inside the source, where the multipolar expansion is not valid. And so you regularize your retarded integrals in order to give them a meaning for multiple expansions. And there are powerful formulas to compute explicitly these retarded integrals for any source with multipolarity L, which is typically divergent when R tends to 0, but this is treated with this regulator in front. And so there are very general integration formulas for these nonlinear effects, and I flash for you general expression of these most general, very general formulas, which come from simply the retarded integral of an extended source, okay, in a very general way. And these formulas are used to compute nonlinearities in the field, notably the tail effect. The tail effect, you will have a part of the waveform which is scattered by the mass due to the presence of the source, which curves the space-time, and in first approximation, you will have a scattering with the mass of the source, total mass of the source. And this is a 1.5 pn order in the radiation field. But this is a 1.5 pn order in the equations of motion beyond the radiation. So this is actually a 4 pn order effect in the radiation reaction. And as I said, these effects can be measured by the LIGO-Virgo detectors. Our colleagues from effective field theory will use diagrams to represent these effects. So there will be some diagram which describes the propagation of gravitational waves far from the source and scattered because of the presence of the mass. This is such a diagram where you have a graviton line which escape to infinity, and the other lines are attached to the particles, describing, say, a quadrupolar source in your diagrammatic expansion. And the effect on the internal structure, which is a radiation reaction effect, can be described by this diagram, where you have a graviton which is emitted and scatters off the curvature of space-time by this graviton's line, and then is reabsorbed by the particles. This is completely equivalent description. There is also the nonlinear memory effect, which is described by this diagram. So these are interactions between two quadrupole moments which produce an extra contribution in the field. And this effect can be computed using traditional PN method or using exact derivation based on asymptotic behavior of the field at future null infinity. And this is very nice because this effect can be interpreted as the gravitational wave re-emission of gravitons, and the formula is exactly the same as the one for gravitons, is exactly the same as the one that you can work out for any massless radiation, particularly photons or maybe neutrinos if they are massless. So it's a very nice effect as well. So the MPM formalism will be matched to a post-Newtonian expansion inside your source. And the way this is done is through the matching equation. So there is a matching equation which can be solved up to any post-Newtonian order. And this gives you the full solution of the solution in the form of a multipolar expansion far from your source, and inside your source in the form of a post-Newtonian expansion, the two being matched in some intermediate region just outside your system, but still in the near zone of your system. So both approximations are valid in that overlapping region. And I will not detail too much on that, but there is a general solution that you can write in the near zone for the post-Newtonian expansion. This is a naive way to write down the post-Newtonian expansion, but writing this too naively would be one of the origin of the problems that I was mentioning in the field before, because you have to take into account also propagation of tails and so on, and this gives you extra contribution to that we can call radiation mode contribution to the near zone field, while here these are potential mode, and all these terms are completely known, at least formally, for any source up to any post-Newtonian approximation. And similarly, you have a general solution for the exterior field, parameterized by these multiple moments that are actually defined from the linear approximation in the external field, the source moments that I was mentioning before. And again, you have general closed form expressions. Okay. So I will finish the contribution by being a little bit more technical. I am sorry for that. I would like to review some recent work that was done on the definition of the multiple moments in GR in d dimensions. And why arbitrary dimension? This is because we have to use dimensional regularization. I said that there are both UV and infrared regularization divergences that you have to regularize, and that the correct method to deal with these divergences is dimensional regularization. But this poses an interesting problem for the definition of multiple moments in d dimension, as we shall discuss. And I wanted to tell you some words about the recent progress on the 4PN gravitational wave generation. So these works that I will review are based on collaboration with Guillaume Faye, Quentin Henry, and François Larouturou. So in this, for the definition of multiple moments in GR, in D dimension, let us use, so we have to solve the Einstein field equations, and we shall use harmonic or Dedondaire coordinates. So we shall have a pseudo tensor for the matter field and the gravitational field. And the box operator here will be a D-dimensional D'Alembertian operator. And we know the Green's function for the D'Alembertian equation. But here, we shall use the Green's function in the ordinary real space-time domain. We don't use the Fourier domain representation of the Green's function, as our colleagues from effective field theory use, using the diagrams that are computed in Fourier domain. So in our work, we use the Green's function in the real space-time domain, and you may recognize in this Green's function this function, which is just actually the Minkowskian interval. So you will have t square minus r square, which is written in that way through this function, which is very useful to use. So we have introduced this function, and this is very important in our approach. And you know that the Green's function is just a power depending on the dimension of the Minkowskian interval between 2 points. And this is parameterized through this function. Okay. So we have to solve the, we consider the multiple expansion outside our system. Capital script M means multiple expansion, sorry. We have to solve the wave equation in D dimension, and there will be a particular solution which is regularized with the previous regulator that I was mentioning, which is important to cope with the singularity of the multiple expansion when r tends to 0. Okay, and then there will be an homogeneous solution which is parameterized by the source multiple moments. So we have to deal with that object in order to define properly our multiple moments in D dimensions. These functions are known in terms of the pseudo stress energy tensor, and we can write them in the form of multiple moment functions that are symmetric trace-free with respect to their L indices, L, but not symmetric trace-free with respect to the space-time indices. And that's all the problem that we want to address today. So the explicit expression of these functions, again, you will have this infrared regularization, and with this process R to the B, which appears there. And this is an explicit expression, which is, by the way, completely convergent. So this, by the way, solves the previous problem of the divergence of multiple moments expressions in our formalism. And the pseudo tensor appears as a source of the multiple moments. Okay. And we are using, actually, we are using this regularization with a B parameter on the top of dimensional regularization, because you have a power, you have D dimensions there. And for intermediate step in our calculation, actually, it is important to keep this regularization RB. At least we have not found a way to get rid of this regularization scheme, but that's the way it is. It was invented in order to cope with, to deal with multiple expansions, and so we still have that problem in our calculation. So, well, so we still have to keep properly this regularization as well. And so we do all our calculation with a specific regularization B epsilon, which recovers actually the usual dimensional regularization when B tends to 0. And for the moment, we have proved that in any cases, actually, the limit B tends to 0 is finite. And so actually, what we are doing is dimensional regularization, and that's all. So the problem is how to find the irreducible decomposition of these objects, including their various space-time components, 0, 0, 0, I, and Ig, in terms of STF, irreducible STF tensors. And what we find is that while for the 0, 0 component, there is no problem because this object is STF with respect to the L indices. But for the 0I component, we find that there are 3 pieces that are irreducible tensors, STF tensors. 2 pieces are associated with mass multiple moments, but there is also another piece which is associated with current type multiple moments. And for the Ig component of this object, this is more complicated. There are 2 pieces that are associated with mass moments, 3 pieces with mass moment, 2 pieces associated with current moment, and there is an extra piece which is absent in 3 dimensions, but plays some role in D dimensions. Finally, what we found is that the generalization of the mass and current multiple moments in D dimensions involves the usual mass moments that are given by the usual STF expressions, but that the generalization of the current moment involves actually 2 tensors, one which is a straightforward generalization of the current multiple moments, and one which is an extra moment, which is neither mass type or current type, but which is an extra contribution. And these 3 types of moments have complicated symmetries that are given by Young tableau, mixed Young tableau. Notably, the current type moment is given by this mixed Young tableau. On the other hand, the new type of multiple moments is absent in 3 dimensions and actually plays no role with the dimensional regularization. So when we do our calculation with dimensional regularization, we can safely ignore this more complicated contribution. Notice that it is 0 in 3 dimensions because it has no components in 3 dimensions. This is like the Weyl tensor in 3 dimensions. The Weyl tensor in 3 dimensions has 0 components in 3 dimensions, as you know, and therefore does not exist at all in 3 dimensions. And actually, the number of components of this object is exactly the same as the number of components of the Weyl tensor in 3 dimensions. So now we have our irreducible mass quadrupole moment that is given by certain formula that we have applied to the computation of the mass quadrupole moment at 4p-n order. There are various techniques to compute that, and I will not, since my time is advanced now, I will not review all these techniques. But in the end, we found we could complete the mass quadrupole moment for compact binary system at 4p-n order. This is a central piece in order to complete the post-Newtonian templates at 4p-n order. You need, of course, the quadrupole moment, which enters the quadrupole formula at the highest approximation, which is 4p-n. Notice that we have found that at 4p-n order, in the quadrupole formula, there is a non-local piece, which is due to tails. And associated with that piece, there is a pole, an infrared pole. And we have to prove that this pole is actually compensated with poles coming from other parts of the calculation, namely potential modes in the calculation. And this is what we have done. And finally, just to review where we are now for the 4PN generation. First of all, the 4PN mass quadrupole moment has been completely solved and completed. So we have proved that all UV divergences can be renormalized by appropriate shift of the particle world line, and therefore the problem of UV divergences has been solved. As I say, that 4PN order, there is a non-local in time term associated with tails and a crucial infrared pole associated with it, but this pole is cancelled by poles coming from some non-linearity effect associated with tails of tails, which propagate in the wave zone, the radiation zone, the radiation mode. And finally, at 4PN order, all the infrared poles have been completely cancelled. So the quadrupole moment is finite in 3 dimensions. And but however, there are specific contributions due to dimensional regulation that have been taken into account. And finally, we could have the finite renormalized mass quadrupole moment at 4PN order, which is ready to be used in post-Newtonian templates. And at 4PN order, first of all, we know the 4.5 PN term in the flux. This is due to a tail of tail of tail effect. So again, these are the PN parameters. The 4.5 PN term is known. However, the 4 PN term is known only in the perturbative black hole limit, where for point particles with small in the test mass limit for the mass ratio between the 2 particles. And so what we want now, what we need is to complete these terms that are finite in the test mass, in the mass ratio between the 2 particles. And so for that, let me just review what has been done for the moment. As I say, the tail of tail of tail is completed. The 3PN mass octupole moment and 3PN current quadrupole moment that are needed are also known and completely regularized UV and infrared and renormalized and so on. Everything works. Extra multiple moments are also known. However, there are also cubic interactions at 4PN order, which come into the relation between the radiative moment and the source moment. And there is also another step that I will not review, but that has been completed. And let me just flash by this final transparency, sorry for the technical formula, what exactly remains to be done. When you have the quadrupole moment, which is measured at infinity, this is a so-called radiative moment, there is a relation between that moment and the quadrupole moment of the source. And then there are the non-linear effects. I say that at leading order, this is 1.5 PN order, this is a tail effect. And then there is a memory effect, 2.5 PN. There is a tail of tail at 3 PN. And there is a tail of tail of tail at 4 PN. 4.5 PN order, which is known. However, there is still a work to be done, and this is in progress, notably with the work of David Trestini, who is doing his PhD on that problem. The so-called tail of memory is to be completed, and this is a 4PN effect that needs to be included before having all the material needed to finally complete the 4PN generation for the gravitational wave template. And I thank you very much for your attention.